All right, Class 7A. This one might be a little bit shorter too, just because there's only 16 teams in this class. Um, than some of the other classes that are larger with in number of teams. Um, but we'll know a lot about a lot of these 7A schools as we get closer here uh, to the end of the season. It seems like here towards the end of the season, there's more, ultra competitive games than towards the beginning of the season. Um, once we got out of non-conference and moved into conference play. Um, go ahead and get started here, but before we do, if you're enjoying this show, like the video, share the video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. Comment on the video if there's something that you want us to know about your team. Go ahead and follow us on our social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, and then subscribe to us on YouTube, and we're very close to hitting the 100,000 follower mark on all platforms. So we want everyone who's watching to be a part of that. And we will just go ahead and get into it here. All right. Number one, Conway. The Wampus Cats, led by Grayson Wilson and company. Alex McRae is one of their prominent receivers. Trey Harris, running back. They've got a lot of really talented guys. Coach James has put together quite a team over at Conway. I think that they are head and shoulders above the rest at the moment, just because we haven't seen them struggle really at all this season. And I'll talk about their game this week, which is where they might start struggling a little bit. But we'll get to that in a second, and we'll just go ahead and move on to Bryant for now. Bryant's a team that has a very strong case to be the number one team in the class. Their matchup with Conway might be the most hyped up game in the state. It's been that way the past couple of years. It's been the most highly regarded matchup in the state the past couple of years. That rivalry has grown tremendously. Now, it's not Salt Bowl status. Don't get me wrong; it's not Salt Bowl status at all. But it is very highly regarded by both fan bases. Bryant's had Conway's number for the last few years. Now that Coach James has moved over to Conway, we're going to see if that changes. I think that game's going to be extremely competitive this year. And we'll talk about that later. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But everybody's looking forward to that matchup. It's like Rising versus Fordyce in 3A. Everybody's looking forward to that matchup. That's the one everybody wants to talk about. Bryant, Jordan Walker, Myron Thrash, Daniel Anderson, Elijah Hill. I can list names off from Bryant for a while. They've just got so many athletes and so many talented players. They're superior at the line of scrimmage. That's what really separates them from the pack, I think. They've built that program. They've built that program and that team like an SEC school, where the line of scrimmage is what they're focusing on. Defensive and offensive line reigns supreme over at Bryant. And so, that's what's really set them apart. Now we'll see how they fare against Conway this year, but they're definitely a team that people are going to be excited about moving forward. Thought I was going to sneeze, but I did. Number 3, Bentonville. Bentonville's a team that had a signature win last week over Fayetteville. Bumped Fayetteville down 2 spots, bumped Bentonville up big time. And Conway looks even better than they did at the last week, even because of their victory over Fayetteville. Their victory over Bentonville earlier in the season, and with Bentonville's dominant victory over Fayetteville. And if you watch the footage of that game, you can tell Fayetteville turned the ball over way too much. And we'll talk about Fayetteville here in a second, but Bentonville did a very good job of capitalizing on those turnovers. Trevor Grant was tremendous. Chris Ficklin was tremendous for them. Obviously had some really tremendous defensive performers as well that were able to cause some turnovers and things like that. Some of it was self-inflicted wounds from Fayetteville, but Bentonville, a team to watch out for. And I said it a while back. I said what Bentonville does every year is they struggle a little bit at the beginning, and then Coach Grant always finds a way to pull them back into serious contender mode, and that's been the case this year as well. Um, pretty easy to tell that that was going to be the case with Bentonville this year. Lost to Fayetteville the last time they played in the state title game, and they were out for revenge this year, and they did a good job of capitalizing on that matchup. Number 4, Pulaski Academy. They match up with Conway this week at home. Going to be a great advantage for them to be playing at home this week against a tough Conway team. We will get to see, how Bryant fares against a Conway team with so many skill guys that are so talented. That's kind of been PA's. That's kind of been PA's mantra uh, during their years of success. I think they've always had an underrated offensive line. Their offensive line and defensive line always played really hard under Coach Kelly and Coach Lucas in this dynasty run that they've had over the past even really couple decades, um, especially over the last decade and a half, really. Um, but I think that PA this week and Conway, we'll talk about that game in a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's going to be a good game. Number 5, Fayetteville. Fayetteville, they're a team that struggled against Bentonville, shot themselves in the foot over and over and over. Garrett Odom is still one of the best and most talented passers in the state, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the state. Jason Delamar, still one of the most talented receivers in the state. Their loss to Bentonville only moves them down in the rankings. It really doesn't take away from their talent level, I don't think. Coach Casey Dick is going to have his team back on track, I think, by the playoffs. That's what they do. Fayetteville's been a serious contender for a while now for a reason. They won the state championship last year for a reason, and they were able to replace Drake Lindsay at that quarterback spot with a guy that's at a similar level to play that he was putting up. And Garrett Odom has performed really well. We were really intrigued to see what he's going to do in the offseason. He's performed well, and Fayetteville will be a contender for sure. Don't count out the Bulldogs just yet. Rogers. Rogers is a team that Coach Harbison's always going to have them rolling offensively. That's been the case for the last pretty much ever since he took over at Rogers, really, and going to be some interesting matchups towards the end of the season with Rogers. I think that they if they can get everything rolling, they're going to be able to put together a nice little playoff run towards the end of the season. Number 8, Little Rock Christian. Little Rock Christian is a team. They historically over the last couple of years at least have been a state contender since they were in 5A, 6A. Competed with Greenwood last year for the 6A title in the state championship game before ultimately coming up short. But that's a program that under Coach Grimmett, he's going to find a way for them to bounce back. Kemp Keller's a good quarterback. They're going to find a way to win games. Little Rock Christian. Go ahead and roll with our games, our game picks here. Cabot versus Bryant to start us off. Bryant will win this game. Cabot put up a nice showing against Pulaski Academy last week, but they have to go to Bryant this week. It's a tough place to play. Has been ever since Bryant got really good. And so Bryant will win that game this week over Cabot. North Little Rock versus Little Rock Central. I'm going to pick North Little Rock to win this game. Going to be a good win for them, first win of the season. But Little Rock Central, it's at Little Rock Central this game. It's going to be a slugfest. Both teams are going to come in hungry. I think that eventually, though, North Little Rock will pull out the victory. Going to be really exciting for Coach, the coaching staff over there, and Coach Clint Reed. He's a great coach. He's just got to get some things put together at North Little Rock. Little Rock Christian versus Little Rock Southwest, another another cross city matchup. Little Rock Christian will win this game over Southwest, I think, pretty handily, and they will move one step closer to solid playoff positioning. Conway versus Pulaski Academy. This is the game that people are going to be talking about, and it's going to be an exciting one. Tickets are going to be sold out. First time in history that either of these teams has played each other. It's really hard to pick against Pulaski Academy at any stage, really. Um, I picked against them I believe I picked against them at least, whenever they played Bryant earlier this year, and Bryant ended up pulling that one out. I said Pulaski Academy was my sleeper team. I said sleeper team during our class preview shows. They're not a sleeper team any year at all, but people still weren't really believing that they could make the adjustment to 7A. At least some people weren't. Um, they haven't done too bad. In their move to Class 7A. If they can get this victory over Conway and then Conway beats Bryant, chaos will ensue. Depending on the point spreads, it's going to be what decides it. But Pulaski Academy still has a chance to be the 1 seed in this conference. So I'm going to pick Conway to win this week, but I think that PA will give them all they can handle and maybe some more. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if PA was able to pull this off, but Conway is just so talented. Grayson Wilson is and Brandon Cobb, two of the best quarterbacks in the state. I could probably talk about this game for 30 minutes maybe. But both of these teams just really exciting. Really excited to watch and see what happens in this game. Rogers and Bentonville. This is another one that people are going to have their eye on. It's at Bentonville. Rogers can put up points. Bentonville can put up points. Bentonville's going to be riding high after their upset victory over Fayetteville last week. I'm going to pick Bentonville to win this game. I think that they are very good at capitalizing on turnovers. If Rogers makes some little mistakes here and there, they're going to be able to capitalize on it. I'm going to pick Bentonville to win this game. Springdale versus Fayetteville. I'm going to pick Fayetteville to win this game. I think Fayetteville's going to be hungry and they're going to be ready to come back and avenge their loss from last week. And I think that Fayetteville pulls out the victory this week over Springdale. Bentonville West versus Rogers Heritage. I think that Bentonville West gets a victory this week. Bentonville West has only lost to Rogers Heritage one time since they started playing back in 2016. I think Bentonville West will pull out the victory this week. Fort Smith Northside versus Springdale Harbor. I'm going to pick Fort Smith Northside to get the victory this week over Springdale Harbor. And tough conference that these two are in. Both 7A conferences are tough. And I think that Fort Smith Northside is going to be happy to get the victory this week. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if Springdale Harbor came out and got a win either. That's going to do it for this week of Class 7A. And that's going to wrap us up for the week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment, all that good stuff. Share the video. Follow us on social media. You know where you can find us. X, Instagram, Facebook. We are all over the place on social media. At AR Sportsnet is where you're going to find us. So go ahead and give us a follow. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. And until next time, for the ASN Ranking Show, I am Carson Ward, signing off.